Hey guys, welcome to Triggered Precision Machine. In the last episode we talked about some of the tools that I use to reload precision rifle ammo. One thing we didn't talk about was documentation. Documentation is super important and it's going to help us accomplish our goals much faster. So in this video we're going to go over my methods of documentation, what I keep track of and why I keep track of it, so we don't find ourselves unnecessarily wasting time and going in circles. Let's check it out. Alright guys. Up on the screen, you're going to see a reloading data sheet that I came up with. There's other ones out there, but this one has exactly what you need to keep track of. Nothing more, nothing less. So we'll go over this line by line and I'll highlight each section we go to. So starting up here at the top, we have the date and time. This seems obvious, but it's one of those things that I have forgotten in the past, and it's nice information to have when you go back and check this stuff out years later. Moving down to the rifles section, this is where all of our rifle info goes. If you're using a store-bought rifle, you can enter the make and model here, or if it's a custom rifle, you can do what I did, and I'll enter the manufacturer of the action and the manufacturer of the barrel. And right below that, we have the caliber, followed by the barrel length, and the rate of twist. So this is all pretty self-explanatory here. To the right of the rifle section, we have our environmental data. I'll generally pull this off my Kestrel weather meter at the range at the time I'm shooting, but you can also get it from weather apps on your phone. So these are the main ones I keep track of, which become more important down the road for long-range shooting. We have temperature and humidity in the first two rows, then we come to barometric pressure and DA, or density altitude. For those of you who don't know, density altitude is basically the air density given in the form of altitude above or below sea level. And yes, you can have a negative DA like I do in the example if the conditions are right. You can calculate the DA using the air temp, barometric pressure, and dew point. The easiest way to do this is using an app or going to one of the websites where it'll calculate it for you. After this we have wind. Once again I use the Kestrel for this, and make sure you note the direction and the speed of the wind. And finally there's a space for other information. And here's where I jot down the sunlight, cloud conditions, and the direction I'm shooting. Moving on to the cartridge section, these are all pretty easy to fill in. In the bullet information area, I'll also add the lot number for the bullets in case you have multiple lots, because there are differences lot to lot. You can do the same thing for the powder area as well. Finally is the seating depth to the lands. This is a standardized measurement that I base my reloads off of. I get this measurement using the actual bullet I'm loading and a piece of fired brass. This is the longest loaded cartridge that I can have before I engage the lands when that round is chambered. I measure this using a Sinclair comparator attached to my calipers, and the measurement is from the head of the cartridge to the ogive of the bullet, which is essentially the part of the bullet profile where the curve reaches the full bullet diameter, if that makes sense. Also in this row I have mag length, so sometimes your max loaded length is constrained by the magazine length and not the chamber, so here's where I put this max dimension. Down towards the middle, here's where I keep track of how many times my brass is fired. There's a few methods that people use to mark their brass and keep track of firings. I find a Sharpie and a mark on the case head works pretty well for me. Below that is what kind of load development test we're running for that day. OCW is Dan Newberry's optimal charge weight method, which is what I like to use. Then we have the traditional ladder test, a seating depth test where you're fine-tuning your load, and other in case you're testing something else like primer types, neck tension, or something else. And the 1 and the 2 next to those just to note a first round of testing or a second round of testing. And test distance needs no explanation, it's whatever range you're shooting at. Down here at the loads tested section, we put all the information for our reloads. These are just some theoretical numbers that I entered for an OCW test, but this is actually pretty close to how I would do this with the different charge weights. The seating depth will remain the same for all your loads unless you're doing a seating depth test. And finally, the last section is the range data we get from actually shooting. The two things I record are velocity and accuracy. I measure my group center to center just as a reference point for future reloads. Down here in the notes section, fill in whatever you may think is pertinent to your testing and what definitive results you saw or didn't see. So you guys can download a copy of this data sheet for free on our website at www.triggeredprecision.com. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.